So the Dulwich Talks, thought leadership series, so providing opportunities for you all to engage with some very exciting and interesting individuals who we have the great privilege of being able to welcome onto our campus. So I'd like to introduce to you Ronda Jackson, our visitor this morning. Very welcome to our campus, Ms. Jackson, and we greatly appreciate this opportunity this morning. So Ronda Jackson is a senior leader and change maker with a proven track record for managing large-scale, impactful initiatives. She leads KABOOM's policy advocacy and impact team that uses data to identify gaps in access to quality play spaces in disinvested communities, and partners with government officials to drive public investment to achieve play space equity in those communities. Prior to joining KABOOM, Ronda was the Assistant Director of Public Sector Innovation at Living Cities, where she worked with municipal leaders across the nation to implement practices that improve the economic well-being of low-income BIPOC communities. So previously, Ronda worked in criminal justice reform in cities across the USA, implementing the highly successful Boston ceasefire gun violence prevention model. She also managed the nationally recognized Back on Track program, created by then District Attorney Kamala Harris, providing re-entry education and employment services to first-time non-violent drug offenders. Ronda began her career in the federal government as a Special Assistant for Public Affairs at the U.S. Department of Transportation and a Special Assistant in the White House Office of Cabinet Affairs in the Clinton administration. She holds a Master's in Public Administration from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government and a Bachelor's in Communications from Howard University. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Ronda to the stage.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I want to first give a shout out to my friend and colleague and grad school alumni, Namju Cho, for inviting me to speak with you all, and also to the head of college, Honson, for having me here today and for that wonderful introduction. And thanks to all of the students here. I know it's early in the morning. I appreciate when young people get up early to do anything, and to come in and to listen to a talk is really wonderful. So I am, as was said, Ronda Jackson. I am the Vice President of Policy, Advocacy, and Impact at a national nonprofit called KABOOM, based in Washington, D.C. I am here in Seoul on vacation, but I'm loving the opportunity to chat with you all. So before we get started, I want to make sure I know who's in the room. How many of you like to play? Raise your hand. All right, how many of you played on a playground at some point in your life, old or young? All right. Raise your hand if you're a swings person. Do you love the swings? Okay, I'm a swings person. What about the slides people? Where are the slides? Okay, good. Usually more swings people than slides people. But it's great to know that I'm here with folks who understand playgrounds and who like to have fun. So again, KABOOM is a national nonprofit. We are based in Washington, D.C., and our mission is to end play space inequity for good. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that means. Play space inequity, it's an interesting term, but it means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the children in the United States that receive the benefits of our work. So first of all, we know that play is fun. Playing on a playground is really fun. But in addition to it being fun, it is also a really important part of development, of a young person's development. I was at a school a couple of weeks ago, and the superintendent of the school said that play is learning, right? And what happens when you are on the playground and when you're playing with your friends, you're learning and you're developing your social and emotional and the physical skills that you need to grow. So we really believe that all kids need places to play. But in the United States, unfortunately, many kids are missing out on this critical need. And they're missing out on it as a result of what we call systemic racism and historic disinvestment, particularly in Black and brown communities in the United States. And when those communities don't have access to play spaces and green spaces, we call that play space inequity. So I want to explain a little bit the difference between equality and equity. When you're talking about race and racism, it's really good that we have the same shared language, that we understand what we're talking about. I think in the flyer that went out about this, it used the word, "Are all play spaces created equal?" And that was a little bit of a teaser to kind of get you guys to think about what is the difference between equality and equity. So first we're going to start with what we call the reality. And the reality, at least in our country, is that some people get more than what they need. As the guy standing on all the boxes, he's got more boxes than what he needs in order to see the game. And then some people get just about what they need and they can see and enjoy what's happening over the fence. And then many people get less than what they need, right? So the young person there is kind of down on the ground, can't see the game, can't see what's happening, not getting what they need. Equality says, and it assumes that if we give everyone the same thing, we're all going to be okay. You know, if we spread the peanut butter evenly, everyone's going to get what they need. But you can see in the picture, even with everybody having all the same boxes, everyone still can't see, right? They can't see what's happening on the other side of the fence. So equity, which is what we're striving for now, tells us that everyone gets the support that they need. So when we have equity, we are matching the need with where the person is. And so here, everyone can see. Some people don't need a big box, some people need a medium box, some people need 2 boxes, but they can all see the game. So they're getting some equitable support. And here we go, we're at justice. That's the far away that Dr. King and so many others have talked about, which is that we are addressing the cause of the inequity, and there isn't even any barrier standing in the way. There's no fence. Guess what? We don't even need a fence. Everyone can just see the game. So those are the levels that we are working towards, and hopefully that helps give you some understanding. So how did KABOOM get started? We started in the mid-90s, when probably before any of you were born or even thought of, but I was a fully grown adult. In 1996, our founder, Daryl Hammond, read an article in the newspaper, and unfortunately the article was about 2 young people under the age of 10 who passed away in a car. They were looking for a place to play in their neighborhood and went into an abandoned car in the hot DC summer, and unfortunately they lost their lives trying to play. And the article talked about how much that community had been promised a play space. It was a low-income Black community in Washington, D.C., and they had been made a lot of promises and they didn't appear, and so the kids didn't have any place to play, and they lost their life. And Daryl Hammond was a young man at that time. He was really shocked and concerned by this story. He went to the community, asked them if he could help build a playground, got some funders, and got some communities, folks involved, and that is the very first KABOOM playground that was built in 1996. And from there he decided, maybe this is something I should do with my life, and he started KABOOM. And since then, we've been able to build over 17,000 play spaces, we've served over 11 million kids, and we've engaged over 1 million volunteers. But we still have an equity issue as it relates to play spaces. And that equity issue is really a part of what has happened in the United States since its inception. So much of the investment in our country is based on the roots of discrimination. As early as 1930s, most playgrounds in the United States, 1913, were whites only, which meant that Black or brown families couldn't go to the playground. This is a picture from the 1960s by the famous photographer Gordon Parks. And Dr. King used to talk about just wanting his children to be able to, he called it fun world, to be able to go to a place where they could play freely. So this lack of investment and lack of access to public spaces for kids and for families has been a part of our nation's history. And that leads to persistent disparities. Lack of access continues in our country. 70 to 80% of minority folks in our country don't have access to parks or play spaces. And those that do, they're lower quality, and they also don't have a sense of belonging in those places. If there isn't a place for you to play, or if it hasn't been built for you, it's hard for you to feel as if you belong there. But the bottom line is young people like yourselves and like kids growing up in my country, they need a place to play. It's important for their physical health, for their well-being, for their learning, as we talked about earlier, and also to relieve stress. And young people have stress just like everyone else, and building resiliency is really important as we grow, and we can do that when we get to go outside and play and let off steam and have fun with our friends. So the way that we are trying to solve this problem, which we feel is solvable, is by getting the public sector to invest in money in building playgrounds where they don't exist, making sure that we understand where the need is and building playgrounds where there is that need. As we were talking about with equity, equity is about making sure that people get what they need. And our playgrounds are designed by kids and they're built by the community, and the community is very involved in that process from beginning to end. To map where play spaces are, we use GIS mapping, similar to what some of your computers use and some of our phone systems use, to really help us understand, if I go into a community, what does the census tell me about where there's a lot of kids living, where there's low-income folks, and where there is and aren't access to playgrounds. And we can pinpoint that on a map. And so when we talk to funders and when we talk to community leaders, we can tell them, hey, this is where you need to build a playground. And then we can also go out and figure out what's the quality of the playground, because having a playground where the swings are broken or there's a hole in the slide, I've seen them all, is a problem as well. So we want to make sure that there's that access and there's that good quality. And what we learned when we began to really do this mapping over the past couple of years is what we believed is true. In the city of Baltimore, 60% of the playgrounds in communities of color are in need of total disrepair. And we also learned that in a city of Baltimore that is predominantly African American, it's right outside of Washington, D.C., those cities get the least amount of public funding. So our community engagement, we start, as I said, with finding out what is the community want, what do the kids need, who are the kids in those neighborhoods. We engage them in the planning process. We want to make sure that those playgrounds get used and that the usage is increased. So having what those kids and families want is really important. And then we want to promote the longevity of the space. We want to make sure that it's programmed, that there's fun things happening at the playground, and that it's maintained by the community and by the public sector, the government, so that they're investing in it. This is a picture that shows, this is a handout that we give folks. It's called My Dream Play Space. So every time we go into a community, kids get that blank piece of paper and they get to draw the playground of their dreams. And then our manufacturers go out and find equipment that matches what the kids are interested in, the colors and the types of things that they want. So this is a story, we'll show a video in just a moment, about a playground for older kids. We're really starting to move into what we call adventure courses, and they're a little bit more challenging for me as an out-of-shape adult, but they're super fun for kids. And so this is a story of how a community was able to get involved in that play space.
Too often, adults are making decisions for youth without youth voice. I want to set a new space where it's involved more growth.
Initially, we were thinking of a playground. And the young people stepped forward and said, you know, we really need something that appeals to older teens in this particular area.
What I wanted to see was more infrastructure. It's really important to have youth specifically involved in this project so that they could really contribute and share what they wanted to see, since they're the ones that live here and are going to be using the equipment. We had a group of, I think it was about 14 teenagers who participated in the project, and they worked on helping with the design. They were basically part of our boots on the ground group of people. So they went out, they knocked on doors, they asked people what they thought of the design, they got input.
Mom asked me if I wanted to join a project in the community, and of course I was really open to that.
She was excited to be a part of it. This was the first project of its kind in my experience, where they asked them what they wanted, then involved them every step of the way.
My favorite thing was hearing their opinions and just like hearing their voice and being able to participate in that.
This is our community, right? And I always tell her, nothing happens about you without you. And so I love that she was engaged in the process, and it not only benefits her, but the children of the whole community.
Community members help to build this park. So it's not just that, oh, folks from outside came and put the park here. Community members, people who live in that house, down the street, next block over, they actually came out and had sweat equity in this park.
When you create a space like this, you're creating a space for neighbors, friends, youth, parents to come here and have positive social interactions, build healthy relationships, and to build that community cohesion.
This was a great opportunity for the city to partner with KABOOM, Connected Communities, and other community partners, Rock the Future. So this kind of sets the standard for what we'd like to implement at other play spaces around the city, making sure that we have play equipment that can engage entire families, and show the ability of when community groups come together with the city, how much more we can achieve.
This is proof positive of what you can do when you work together. I see unity, new beginning, exploring, learning from each other, and connecting all together.
One of the other things that we are working on is what we call public awareness. A part of my team, we're very involved in making sure that the national government, the local government, the state government understands how important playgrounds are for young people and the need for them to be built and invested in by the government. And so we lobby, we write letters to Congress, we have events, and we work with mayors and we work with governors to make sure that when they think about racial equity, when they think about infrastructure, they're thinking about children and they're thinking about playgrounds. So some of our partners here, we have had an opportunity to work with some celebrities over the years. So that first picture there in the top is Steph Curry, a basketball player. Maybe you guys have heard of him, from Oakland and his family. And we're building a series of playgrounds with Mr. Curry and his family in the city of Oakland. And we have a video of that one. Next, the Duchess of Meghan Markle. A number of months ago, you all may have heard, in Uvalde, Texas, in the United States, some kids were murdered along with some teachers at a school shooting. And the Duchess went to the school and paid her respects. And Prince Harry and her husband, their foundation has committed to rebuilding the playgrounds in the school. And so 2 days ago, we worked with the folks there, and they did not come to the event. They really wanted to be focused on the healing there. But that community has a lot of healing to do from the death of those children. And building playgrounds often is a way that we get involved when a crisis happens, to come to the community and give them opportunities to do some healing work together to celebrate the lives of children. And working with the government, the bottom picture there, the tall man in the center is the husband of the Vice President of the United States. His name is Doug Imhoff. We call him the second gentleman. He is the first second gentleman in the United States. And the man with the military-looking outfit on is the Surgeon General of the United States. He is considered the top doctor for the U.S. And that was an event 2 weeks ago that we had in the city of Baltimore, where we talked about the importance of play and mental health for young people, particularly coming out of the pandemic. And the mayor is in the picture. He ran around and beat the kids in a race, but it was a fun day. And then lastly, we have our beloved former president, President Obama and Mrs. Obama. We did about 3 playgrounds with them during the Obama administration, and lots of activities, play, and was very important to them. Moving was very important to them. Ms. Obama had a Let's Move event with us a few times. That was a big part of her legacy. So we've had some great opportunities to work with lots of partners, and we'll continue to do that. And this is just the mural that was created in Oakland when we did the playground with Steph Curry and his family. And it was at an elementary school there. It was one of the most bilingual schools in the city of Oakland, served over 500 kids, and the playground was falling apart. Some kids had been injured actually a few weeks before. And so we will start the video, and then that'll be the end of my presentation.
The new play space at Franklin is amazing and incredibly special for KABOOM. Play space equity really just means that not to equitable spaces to thrive. And we want to make sure what's true for one kid in one community is true for all kids in all communities. KABOOM is a national nonprofit that brings kids and communities together to design and then to build their own unique play space.
The students came up with sketches and ideas of what they wanted to see in their school, and then we took those sketches and ideas and created themes and colors and give life to the school.
We always pride ourselves in teaching the whole child, and I feel like we finally have a space that does that.
I think it's just wild to see all of the ideation for so long and then come in and see in a week the transformation of this space, and to see all the people just working together so hard to get it done. It's unreal.
Right behind me, we have this beautiful mural that was painted by a local artist with wonderful black and brown heroes that remind them to dream.
When we came to Franklin and we saw the space, we realized we could paint all around it and create this 360 experience of activists and artists from the community that could inspire for generations to come.
I think it's really important to always acknowledge what happens when people come together with the heart and the mind and the resources to do something good for others.
Having the Bay Area CarMax Associates be involved with KABOOM is a great way for us to give back to the open community and to the kids of Franklin.
For us to find creative ways and meaningful and impactful ways to give back to the next generation and for families that need it. We're dedicated and committed to it. This is another expression of that.
What this means to us in the community, it's a really big deal being, a child that's been here before, and then my kids to come and see the change that's happening. I'm super excited, and I can't thank everyone enough.
I'm most excited about playing, finding new friends, and the bathrooms.
This space, when they can see themselves on the wall, they can feel inspired, and they can believe in themselves. And the community has spoken really loudly that we believe in them. I just know that when the kids come back, they're just gonna be in so much awe, and they're gonna have so much joy, but most importantly, they're gonna feel like they're loved, and they're gonna want to succeed and do their best. That's what it's going to mean to the community. And it's a lot of hope.
Thank you so much for letting me be here today, and it's great to meet all of you, and we look forward to having a discussion or answering some questions.
Ronda, thank you so much for that inspirational presentation. It's truly inspiring to see the work that you're doing with communities across your country, and gives us much food for thought. for the work that we do here in our community and the ways in which we could impact and the community here in Korea. So thank you so much, Rhonda. No doubt you have questions for Rhonda, so please. Who's going to be the first one? Okay, we have our first question.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I really strongly agree how playgrounds are really important for children. But I wanted to ask, how do you promote this idea of the importance of playground to parents so they bring their children out to actually play in the playground? Yeah, thank you.
That's a very, very good question. You know, we actually start with the parents in the community. And often we get letters from parents and schools saying, hey, our playground is in terrible condition. When can you come and build here? But as you noted, I think that's often a small group of parents, right? And so then we've also got to get the rest of the parents that live in the community to know that this playground is happening and to know that it's a place to bring your children. And so throughout the community engagement process, we make sure that we start to get the word out to the larger community of parents, let them weigh in on the design. We have a design day. Sometimes we'll have a couple of design days and bring in as many parents as we can. And then as you saw in the videos, the parents get involved in building the playground. And then we have a grand opening day. So we try to do as much as possible to bring parents, folks living in the community together. And to tell you the truth, it also happens that in many neighborhoods, folks know that their neighborhood needs a playground and they want some place to send their kids and they know what's there isn't safe. So as soon as they see that there's something there and they can get those kids outside and, you know, give them an opportunity to run around and let off steam, they look forward to it. But we are partnering as well with local nonprofits after the playground gets built to make sure that there's programming and activities there so that the kids and the parents in the community can stay involved in that space once it's built. It's a great question.
How are the construction and administration of the park actually funded? Is it by the local municipality, the donations to those nonprofits, or the states?
It's a very good question, and the answer to all of those, yes. First, we start with, often we get funded, KABOOM gets funded by corporations or what we call philanthropic organizations that want to give back. And so they will fund us to work with the community to actually get the equipment, to build the playground, and to install. What did I do? Okay, install the playground with volunteers. So some of that money comes from private corporations, some of the money comes from foundations. We also, through our government affairs work, are trying to get the government to invest in some of the parks and playgrounds that we build as well. So the funding can and hopefully comes from multiple different sources. I think what's important in your question is what happens after it gets built, who takes care of it then, right? And that is usually falls on local government. So making sure that we have a maintenance fund for the school or for the public park or housing system so that when they take on that responsibility to maintain that new playground, that funding is there. Could you tell me your name, you guys, when you ask a question?
My name is Aparajita. So, does your playground manufacturing, does it go to international countries?
So, very good question. One of them does. The main one that we use is called Landscape Structures, and they do build playgrounds all over the world, a lot in Asia. Often the playgrounds outside of the United States are bigger and nicer and more expensive than the ones that we get to build. But yes, there are playground manufacturers that we use that work internationally. And then there's some great playground manufacturers that are housed in the Netherlands and in Germany and other parts of the country that do really innovative playground design as well.
How many playgrounds has, my name's Elizabeth, how many playgrounds has KABOOM made?
That's a great question. I think you guys might not have gotten here at the very beginning. So we have built over 17,000 playgrounds in the 26 years that we've been around, and we're still growing.
Hi, so I'm Andrea, and I had a question, like a follow-up question about the fact that you guys build playgrounds in international communities. So what are some places that you do build the playgrounds, and like what are the reasons that you do in countries outside of the US?
That's a great question. So most of the playgrounds we have built have been in the United States. We've built a few in Canada and a few in Mexico, right outside of the US. And it's the same reason, you know, communities that either have been devastated by disasters, we've done some disaster relief work outside of the US, or communities similar to the United States where kids need playgrounds. We only build where there is a need, and we focus on low-income communities of color in those places as well.
Hi there, sorry, Mr. Harvey. I work in the elementary school, the primary school, and I found it extremely inspiring, so thank you very much for coming to talk to us. I really enjoyed that, or like that quote about nothing happens about you without you. So I'm just wondering if you have any advice for our student council or student councils who wish to take on, you know, a similar project in our particular space.
Yeah, I think I love that quote as well, and what that really means is, you know, you don't want to have something done for you or in your community that you're not a part of. You know, I've heard people say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? And so you need to be at the table, participating, asking questions, making sure that your opinion is heard. And that's what we try to do in our community engagement process. We don't go in and say to the community, hey, here's your playground. Who cares if you liked it or not? Who cares if it's what you wanted? This is what our funders wanted to build. See you later, enjoy, right? We bring them to the table. We start with them. We start asking them, what do they need? So I love student government when I was a kid. I loved it. So, you know, if you're trying to do projects with your colleagues or with your classmates, make sure that you get their buy-in. Make sure that you ask them what they need. Make sure that you get a consensus to some extent. Or if you're doing something externally with the external community, do the same thing. Listen, ask questions, let people tell you what they need. They'll tell you if you ask. So make sure that you're doing things in collaboration and in partnership. That's what we found very effective.
My name is Ona, and has there been any play spaces that you've tried to work on but you haven't succeeded?
Oh yes, there has been. You know, it's taken longer sometimes than we've thought, often for reasons that have to do with just construction problems. Like construction is really difficult, and we'll get a place and we'll get up to a site, and my team could tell you this, and there's a pipe there that no one knew, you know, or there's some other thing left in the ground, or there's a water system underneath where we didn't know. And so we've often had to come back or move the space, but very rarely have we not been able to finish and do what the community needs. But we've definitely had some delays. And so building anything, building any kind of construction can be hard work, but that's a good question.
Hi, I'm Mr. Wada. I'm a Spanish teacher, and I was thinking that probably the communities that need the park the most would be living in a very dense part of the city. And what do you do when there's no available land, basically, because it's owned by, or it's just too dense to build actually parks?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, we have a combination of that because rural communities in our country struggle as well without having good access to parks and play spaces. But in dense communities, the first thing is we can't build someplace where there isn't the availability of land. So we start with the question, is there something there that needs to be replaced, or is this land where we can build? And so unfortunately, that's kind of the beginning of our process, is making sure that there's something there that we can build. When we're doing the mapping and we realize that there's a need in a particular place, we look for open green space that we get permission and permits. I don't want to bore you guys talking about getting permits from cities, but making sure that we can get permits to build close to the proximity where the kids are. So we start with places where there's need and where there's access to actually put in a play space.
I already asked the question. My name is Tilden. I have a question about the when the playground is built. Is the zoning of that, because I assume most of your playgrounds are built in cities, and cities have zoning regulations. Are playgrounds like large enough to warrant a change in the zoning category, or are they just seen as like public spaces, which are?
I understand. Are you going to be an urban planner at some point in your life, Tilda? That is a wonderful question. Usually, as I was saying, we build playgrounds where they have already existed, and we make sure that they follow whatever the zone guidelines are for size. Sometimes folks want more than what the city will allow, and so we build within the regulations. So we've never tried to build a play space that is not zoned for that type of space and that size of space. We stick with what we can do in the municipalities where we are working. Are there questions? Go ahead, yes.
My name is Martha. So what inspired you to join KABOOM?
That's a great question. I worked in the federal government at the beginning of my career, as was said, and really started to work for cities and understand that for me, city government is where it is. You can just get more done faster, and you get to see the benefits of that. And so when I learned about KABOOM and their desire to work closely with local government and their desire to look at things from a racial equity lens and to improve the lives of children, that was really important to me. I had been doing gang violence prevention work, which had helped save the lives of many young people in Black and brown communities, and so this felt like a healthier, more positive work, but also with the same mission of serving cities and serving kids of color living in local government. But that's a great question.
My name is Nishika. Are there still racism problems in playgrounds?
Yes, there are. Yes, there are. That racism still exists in playgrounds. It still exists in other spaces that we try to address in our country. We live in a world where people like to think that they're better than other people for some reason or another, often because of their financial space or who they are, where they are financially, but as races because of the color of their skin. And so we have to work together collectively with the partners that we have to make sure that in this space, kids, no matter their color, no matter their background, get what they need, and we're doing that together. And that is a very, very good question, but it is still a real problem today.
Has there ever been a very, very bad problem that you just couldn't handle it?
A very bad problem, can you say the last part?
That you just couldn't handle it?
That you couldn't handle. When it comes to building playgrounds, yeah, and usually, as I was saying earlier, they're construction problems. You put a hole in the ground and water comes out, or we find out that there's a gas leak or something. And so, but luckily, our staff that is out there building the playgrounds are really great problem solvers. And so sometimes there's some delays, but they get around it and they learn to do it together in community. But it usually is some kind of really bad construction problem that we have to attest to. Okay, so who has the microphone? Because I see, okay, go ahead, young lady.
My name is
is Young Jay, and how long does it take to build a playground?
Oh, that's a very good question. So from the very beginning, when we first start to talk to the kids that are your age, and we ask them to draw the playground, and then we talk to the parents, and we think about the design, and then the playground gets built, it takes about 2 to 3 months. Sometimes 6 months because of COVID, but things are getting better. But all in all, it's about a 3-month process. And at the end, those kids get the beautiful playgrounds like you saw in the video.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. All right, it seems we have a Dulwich Talk quiz. And there's prizes. All right, how exciting is that? All right, so, okay, so a few questions in relation to Ronda's talk.
Okay, so if you get an answer, we've got some KABOOM prizes. I'll go quickly because I don't know if we're out of time, but, okay, so the first question is, who can tell me the difference between equality and equity? Oh, so many hands, okay. Right here, yeah, what do you think? She's gonna give you a microphone.
Okay, so equality is giving everyone equally needs, and then equity is giving according to what they need.
Awesome. Okay. What's your name? You want a t-shirt? Okay. This is a t-shirt for you. You're gonna have to take a picture with me afterwards, okay? How old are you? 14, all right, I love it. Some of my coworkers can't answer that question. Okay, so can someone answer, what is the mission of KABOOM? What does my organization do? All right, this young man with his hand up, with the mask, stand up, yes. What do? We build playgrounds, and what was the other word you said? Equity. Equity, okay, all right, good answer. What's your name? Okay, we got would you like a t-shirt? Okay. Thank you. All right, next time you can't speak until you get a microphone, because I don't want to get in trouble here. Okay, so next question is, what is place-based equity? All right, we're gonna get this side. Just go to someone. You guys are all so brilliant.
It is when all the children can get their needs for playgrounds. So when all races and all children should get playgrounds that are accessible and good.
Awesome, that is such a great answer. Okay, we got one t-shirt left or a hat. You want a hat? Okay, hopefully it's not too big for your cute head. Okay, we got 2 more. Let's see, I want one of these older kids here in the middle. So what are some of the benefits that good places to play provide? Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna pick this young woman right here. Raise your hand again. Yes. She's gonna give you a microphone. You're gonna give it a try. Benefits to a play space.
For the child?
Yes.
Teamwork, collaboration, and physical, improves their physicality and their teamwork and their creativity.
Awesome, awesome. We got a t-shirt. Are you open? You want a t-shirt?
Yeah, sure.
Sure, okay. You You can take a picture with me in it afterwards. All right, last question. What does mapping place-based equity mean? Okay, yes, in the middle, yes, I see you. I think you have on a black suit today, like me. Okay, what does mapping place-based equity mean? She's coming with a microphone.
Thank you. My name is Brandon, by the way.
Hi, Brandon.
So, mapping PlayStations, play spaces is finding adequate spaces in order to develop these infrastructures.
Awesome, that is a great answer, great answer. All right, you get a hat, that's all I have.
You have a t-shirt?
Only a hat, sorry. Oh man, you guys have been so amazing. It shows that you listen, you've got good listening and comprehension skills. You must have excellent teachers here. I want to take a picture of you guys, or maybe Namju, can you take a picture of the audience for me? And then for those of you who got a t-shirt or a hat, it would be great if you could come down and take a picture for me. My boss will believe that I was actually working today on my vacation. And again, thank you so much for listening and for learning about KABOOM. I hope that this was fun for you and you learned a lot. 감사합니다.
Well, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate that you're actually on holiday here in Korea. So thank you for taking time out of your holiday time to come and talk to us. You've been a true inspiration for us this morning. You've given us a lot of food for thought. And all of us in this building, we have the great privilege of being able to access a school like this, and we have our wonderful playgrounds outside here, and the wonderful playgrounds across Seoul as well. So you've given us a lot of food for thought in terms of the impacts, thinking about the impacts that the positive impacts that we can make within our communities. So thank you so much, Ronda.